Hi everyone, I'm Will. This is my video on Module 9's discussion, answering the question, what do you think makes a good online assessment? And I think the same things that make a good traditional in-person assessment are the same qualities that make a good online assessment. And there's three of them I'm thinking about. My first one is about assessing collecting the data that you want. Um, and the first goal in creating any assessment, whether online or traditional, is to say, what is the information I'm looking to collect here? Um, and I often find that the assessments that we create do not actually collect the data that we're looking to collect. Either poor the questions aren't worded right, or are confusing, or the type of assessment isn't quite right, or the way it's administered is not right, in the way that the data is not reliable. Um, and so that's the number one thing. And I think in the online format, what I would want to know is that the data I'm collecting is actually what the student thinks or knows about. And so um, that's an interesting new dynamic, which is the same dynamic I have in class. And in my when I was a classroom teacher, just about every assessment, I had these little privacy folders I put around them and split up kids around the room. And I almost every assessment I read the whole assessment with them and did question by question, and that was a way of making the data reliable, so I could trust that this is what the student knew or didn't know. And in the online environment, I would assume that, geez, an assessment where we were meeting through Google Meet, and everyone was doing the assessment at the same time, with their cameras on, that might be one way of making sure that I'm getting reliable data. Um, but this brings me to my next point, which is about these assessments being equitable, and going to the point of reading each one of those assessments. And whenever especially a math assessment, but even a literacy assessment, I didn't want the reading part of the math assessment, the wording, to get in the way of what a kid could show me that they could do. And so I always read all of the questions. It was a slow process. It was very boring. I would sit there and read question by question, one question, and stop until the bulk of the students had gotten that one answered, and then moved on. And then the kids and I would say, okay, so you're good. You're going to have to stop there with that question and move on to the next question if you're not finished, which was not perfect. But it was a way of saying, hey, at least you know what the word's saying. And I'm not saying I would read the book to them or the text to students on a literacy assessment, but I would read directions to them and make sure that's clear to them. So I want it to be equitable. I don't want the wording of the question or to get in their way. Then the last piece, which is interesting, because the question is, what do you think makes a good online assessment? Is that I think assessments are actually an opportunity for learning. I'm not always successful at creating assessments that are an opportunity for learning, but I really love it when I take an assessment and I learn, oh, wow, I guess I really don't understand this yet. And that was actually an assessment we just had in one of the previous modules, which was about calculating student success rate and achievement rate, stuff that I just don't do in my primary background and lower grades. And so I took the assessment, and immediately I was like, I have no idea what this question's asking me. And I tried to figure it out, and I answered it. And then when I finished it and got one or two wrong, I realized, okay, so I obviously don't understand this yet. And that is great information as a learner. And so I think that assessment should be an opportunity to learn. And that's why earlier in this module, I think it was 9.01, it said, yeah, I think it advocated to not have kids see what they got right or wrong. I don't know if I like that. I could see how kids could use that and abuse that, and I definitely think they will. Um, but for opportunities to learn, to realize, oh, I didn't get that, so I obviously don't understand this yet. is really great. Um, and thanks for listening.